This is a transmission from the archives.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the archives. I am Tima, the Master Archivist, and today we are back with Ahsoka episode 5. And I gotta say, if we thought Chef Filoni was serving us last week, we got second helpings already, because last week's Star was one of the best episodes in recent time, if not the best ever, and this one blows it out of the water. So let's get into it. So to open up the episode, we have Hera and her crew landing on the planet Cetos and finding nothing pretty much beyond the remains of the star map and a mourning Hu Yang. And I gotta say, when he said, I told them to stay together, I almost wept. I love Hu Yang so much, and the fact he's been included in this series has been one of my favorite things. Because you gotta imagine, for being around for well over 25,000 years, it definitely, I don't think, gets easier to see your friends pass away. And I feel like, because his friends are Jedi, and, you check the Battle Geonosis, they can go pretty easily. I don't think it gets easier, and I feel like every time there's that attachment, it's probably going to be rough in the long run. So even though they did extensively search the area, their hunt did not come up fruitful. So they pretty much just kind of sit and collect themselves for a minute. But that brings us to the world between worlds, and we get our boy Anakin back. Hayden Christensen looked amazing. I know last week's video I was like, oh, something looks a little off. I don't know if that's the point. I still don't know if that's the point. Like, even after this episode, I was like, it makes sense. It makes sense. But he's out here looking like the chosen one, and he arrived to give his old Padawan one last lesson. Live or die. Got two options.
Or die.
The initial interaction, I also really enjoy, because Ahsoka's like, oh, you look the same, and he's like, you got old. One of my favorite things. I love Hayden Christensen, so always good to see him back. And Ahsoka refuses to fight him, to which he responded like, I've heard that before. And he's like, you don't really have much of an option. And then they get into it, and Ahsoka actually gets an edge on him. And he's like, I didn't teach you everything. And literally cuts the ground from beneath her, breaks the world between worlds path, and she ends up falling into a flashback. She got whooped so hard, she got thrown into a flashback. And we actually end up on the planet of Ryloth. There's one of the early missions for Ahsoka and Anakin. But before I even get into that, while that's happening, we have Jason and Hera back up on the surface, and he can hear lightsaber clashing from the ocean. And I don't know if Hera actually saw it, or she's more of just, playing into whatever it is he's doing. Chopper didn't pick anything up, but I guess giving into the intuition of Jason, of course being force sensitive, they end up rallying the rest of their crew together to scan the ocean again. And one of the great interactions I love with Hu Yang, always love Hu Yang, but when he's talking to Carson Teva, and he's like, Jason has these abilities like his father Kanan. I like Carson just like, okay, like, because it's like, these are people to us, we know because we watched Rebels, but like in universe, I love it's like, oh yeah, Kanan Jarrus, and it's like, no, should I? And it's like, I guess not. Like, that's one of my favorite interactions. But back between the world between worlds, Ahsoka, Anakin, their first battle of Ryloth, and Ahsoka reverted back to her younger self. I honestly thought they were going to do Rosario Dawson just Ahsoka clothing, and I was like, I'm glad they actually like recast it for younger Ahsoka. It just makes sense. And basically we see the tolls of the war, many casualties, and also we do see some live action Phase 1 Captain Rex and Ahsoka. She expresses her thoughts about being a soldier in a war instead of peacekeeper, which Anakin explains that they were once peacekeepers, and now they're adjusting to the time, which I feel is very true to Anakin. I feel like watching, episodes 2 and 3, though he doesn't like the politicians or anything, if it comes to war, he's all in. He's just like, oh, this is what happens. Because remember, he committed a lot of war crimes. Then we get a flash to the siege of Mandalore, and Ahsoka, through all of this, we see Mandalorians, the Mandalorian super commandos. Captain Rex, played by Tamara Morrison. We didn't see under the helmet, but at least voiced by Tamara Morrison, so I'm assuming also played. But I like when they're kind of talking. He's like, Ahsoka just brings up, she's like, you're more dangerous and powerful than anyone ever imagined. And Anakin's like, that's what this is all about? I watched that, I'm like, you committed a lot of war crimes, man. Like, it's such a great relationship with Anakin Skywalker, because you sit there and you're like, I love this guy. And then, like, he'll go to do anything. All right, no, Anakin, that's a war crime. We talked about this. I can't keep supporting you every time, but I find a way. And then he, oh my god, he turns to the dark side, He pulls out the red lightsaber, got the Sith eyes, and he kicks her back to the present with the coldest transition known to man. I'm gonna put it right here. This to me was the craziest thing. And Ahsoka actually was able to disarm him, where she could have had the opportunity, I think, to kill Anakin. She didn't. And she chose to live. She ended up putting her lightsabers down. I just thought it was a very interesting take on it. And this all leads to Ahsoka kind of rematerializing, and Hera is actually able to locate her, saving her. And she actually, I kind of like how they did it. They had her in the ghost, and like this ray of light like floods over her, and it's like a rebirth thing. So she ends up being basically reborn to Ahsoka the White, and she connects to the Purgles to convince them to take her to Ezra and where Thrawn is, and now Sabine and all of them. And this brings us to the end credits, to one of the best Star Wars episodes ever made, in my opinion. Um, I think there's some that compete with it, but I think as for everything it's done, this is gonna go down in history as one of the best episodes. So with that being said, I want to thank everyone for tuning in to another episode of Master Archives Analysis. I'm your host, Tima, the Master Archivist, and leave a like on this video. Let me know in the comments what your favorite part of the episode was, or your favorite part of the season in general. Um, and from there, thank you so much. This has been a transmission from the archives, and may the force be with you.